What you're about to hear are real stories from addicts on Reddit, raw, disturbing, and sometimes hard to listen to. If you enjoy content like this, make sure to like the video and subscribe. It really helps the channel. Now let's get into it. What does meth feel like? It's like an orgasm your soul has. It's like seeing the world for the first time. Later, it's like cancer that climbs into your brain and helps you make your decisions for you. One day you look in the mirror and it's not you. You are gone. Meth steers the ship now. Everyone who doesn't leave you will be consumed. Those who loved you stop being real. Then one day you are sleeping on a park bench and waiting to rob someone so you can get high, and you wonder if you swallow a bullet. Maybe it's better for everyone, just so the nightmare will stop. Like heroin, it flips a switch in your brain that the vast majority of people can never turn off. I've done drugs, but I won't ever consider trying meth. If you are thinking of trying meth or you started snorting meth, do not smoke the substance. If you're new and snorting is easier to walk away from. Do not smoke meth. The difficulty of quitting after smoking compared to snorting increases 10 times. This is a message from someone who genuinely cares too much to let people make the same mistake I did. Smoking is a huge regret I have, and surely you will regret it too. Oh, and it's great at first. It takes time to realize the damage you've done. Take my advice or suffer. Shiz, at least I made an attempt. Edit. Man, I made this post out of genuinely wanting people to not impact their lives in a way that is only destructive. Based on a statistic, an estimated 92% of meth users relapse at some point in their life. While that number may not be correct, the rate of relapse is still high, and staying off is a struggle. I myself feel better knowing that with the 15,000 views this has received, maybe I fucking stopped one of those people from going down a dark, lonely road that this substance will lead a person down. I myself am walking upon that road. It has destroyed my closest relationships in a short period of time. I always had a problem gaining weight, and before starting, my physique was the best it had ever been in my lifetime. I was 5 feet 8 inches, 180 pounds, and that weight was crazy for me because I was always around 135 pounds. I've lost the desire to improve my body and work out. It's like I'm fine letting my body go to waste just so I can feel as good and euphoric as I do when I smoke meth. I have no desire to quit, even with how badly this substance has impacted my life as a whole. And the people who are leaving hate on someone who just wants to show the reality of what this drug can do and will do if you abuse it, and hopes people take that advice and don't set themselves up for failure. You are weird for hating and are a horrible person with no morals if you yourself know how addictive this shiz is and still bring it upon another human being. Like, why ruin another life? The thing is, once you try meth in a way as euphoric as smoking, you truly will never be the same person again in life. You just experience 7 times the most pleasurable, natural feeling a human being can feel, which is sex. You have achieved something a human normally could never feel, and based on how our brains are wired, us acting based on dopamine release and everything you do in life being based on the brain's reward system, dopamine, you're going to give up smaller dopamine releases for that huge one released by meth. One example of a smaller dopamine release is a basic function you need to survive, which is eating. Shiz, the main reason when you're on meth, you have no urge to feed the body and can go on binges for days with that urge gone. Shiz, I'm on a 4-day binge right now. 8 maybe 1 meal in those 4 days. And I'm up writing this with the hope that this will impact a life or two by informing them of something I wish I was informed on. Shiz, I would have never ever tried meth at all and stuck with what I normally did, which was cocaine. Shiz, I'm going to stop this whole rant my brain has gone on while I'm mentally able to control it, before I get super focused on something and my brain goes 100% on it. Shiz, I can be doing something for 6 hours and have it feel like 30 minutes. The Shadow People. Before this trip on methamphetamine, I had been using meth heavily for around 2 months. On this day, I was visiting my hometown from college for my birthday. When I got off the airplane, I was in very bad condition. I weighed 30 pounds less than the last time my parents had seen me and had a black eye and a broken nose from a fight I had gotten into while on meth. I ended up getting into a huge fight with my parents, and they kicked me out of the house, so my boyfriend M picked me up and took me to a hotel to celebrate my birthday. with his cousin C, and C's girlfriend AM had recently made a large drug pickup, and we had surplus amounts of methamphetamine on our hands. So as soon as we got settled into the hotel, we started snorting lines and smoking. For a while, everything was like a normal meth trip. We all became hyper-creative and started drawing. C was drawing weird geometric people, and I was drawing Egyptians. C and A left the room to pick up some sodas, while I decided to lie down on the bed. From where I was lying, the ceiling looked like it was made of water. It was warping and flowing and changing colors constantly. It was weird, but very pretty. When C and A came back into the room, I pointed out this phenomenon to A. Apparently, C and A could see the water ceiling as well, so we all lay down on the bed to watch the show. M wanted nothing to do with this, because he knows the warning signs of a St. Jimmy meth freakout, and this is one of the signs. However, I was totally oblivious to this fact. After about 10 minutes, A sat up and noticed that a large vortex was forming in the corner of the hotel room. From this vortex, which looked like a smoky gray cube imploding on itself, emerged hundreds of shadowy figures. They were roughly human in shape and seemed to be composed entirely of shadows. They had no facial features, clothing, or any type of distinguishing marks. Being avid researchers of the paranormal, we instantly recognized these creatures as shadow people. Panic quickly set in as the shadow people began to circle the room. At some point, M finally put down his pen and joined the chaos that was rapidly forming in the room. C, A, and I were huddled in one of the beds together, hyperventilating and in a general state of panic. Shadow people may not sound too frightening to those who know nothing about them, but as people who understand these creatures, we knew enough to be terrified. Shadow people are not malevolent beings. They are horrible, extra-dimensional beings that prey on human energy. Not a good situation to be in when we are spun and paranoid enough as it is. We began talking about what we thought the shadow people were, and came to the conclusion that they were beings from another dimension that had entered our dimension through the vortex. Methamphetamine had allowed our bodies to vibrate at a higher resonance than usual, and this attracted the shadow people. C decided that smoking more meth would make the shadow people go away, so A and I sat on the edge of the bed while C held the pipe and lit it for us. In retrospect, I realized that this was a horrible idea. All we did was make the experience even more intense. Finally, M jumped in and fed A and me some Xanax to calm us down. Unfortunately, nothing happened. The shadow people continued to assault our senses and terrify us. M and A decided that they would attempt to take photos of the shadow people with their cell phones. So they took off on an expedition to the bathroom, which for some reason seemed the best place to take photos to all of us. C and I sat on the end of my bed and waited for their return. I noticed that the closer to C and I got, the more intense the visualizations became. A later stated that she noticed the same thing when near M. We later decided that C and M were conduits for A's and my psychic energy, and that they increased our ability to perceive the shadow people. Soon, a mass about the size of a human torso began forming underneath the table. It was a large, translucent blob with no discernible form. C and I started screaming for M and A to come back, and they ran into the room. The blob started speaking to me telepathically, telling me that it was going to spiritually possess me and use my body to murder my friends. As it was speaking, it began climbing up my body. It inserted 3 tentacles into my navel and began to enter my body. Where the tentacles touched me, I felt a sensation similar to ice-cold needles being pushed through my skin. I wanted to get up and run away, but the creature had me completely paralyzed. A started screaming at me to run, and for M and C to do something, but they just stood there, dumbfounded. A took matters into her own hands and took a flying leap at the creature and tackled it, ripping it out of my body. M grabbed me under my arms, and C grabbed my legs and carried me to the other bed. During this, my body was still completely frozen. They dumped me on the bed and tried to get me to respond, but for a few minutes, I was unable to move or speak. I have very vague memories of what happened next. All I recall is A telling me that the creature was gone. After I came back from my state of paralysis, M ordered me into the shower. I refused and started crying, telling him that the shadow people were in the shower and that I didn't want to be in the same place as them. M grabbed me by the arm and basically dragged me into the bathroom. He undressed me and shoved me into the shower and then climbed in after me. I became completely hysterical, seeing shadow people all around me. I huddled up in a ball, making myself as small as humanly possible. At this point, I doubt I was coherent. I was babbling while sobbing and shaking and trying to hide in the shower. M dragged me to my feet and asked me if I thought the rest of my life was going to be like this. I nodded. He then told me that if I was like this for the rest of my life, he couldn't be with me anymore. Then I really lost it. I started crying harder and screaming at him. I don't remember what I said. All I remember is M spitting in my face and shaking me as hard as he could, and M yelling at me to calm down. Eventually, he got me calm enough to actually take a shower. The shadow people were mostly gone by this time. He dried me off and dressed me because I was incapable of doing it myself and walked me out to the bedroom. From the looks of things, C and A had just had a conversation similar to ours. C looked totally drained, as did M, and A was lying in the bed, sobbing and exhausted. M and I climbed into our bed, and after a while of lying in bed in a state of total paranoia, we all finally drifted off for a few hours' sleep. The shadow people stayed with me for a few months. I saw them constantly, even when I wasn't high. I personally believe that what we saw that night was real. M disagrees and believes that everything we saw was drug-induced. I am no longer on speaking terms with C and A, and thus cannot put forth their opinions. I believe that A and I have some sort of psychic powers, and that methamphetamine put us in a highly receptive state. To further complicate this matter is the subject of the photos. We all saw shadow people in those photos when we reviewed them at a later time. Today, however, M claims that there is nothing in those photos, and they all have mysteriously disappeared. All photos were on M's phone. I think he is in denial and does not want to face what the four of us went through, and so disposed of the photos. Meth basically ruined my life through a long series of events. In the end, I ended up with methamphetamine-induced schizophrenia. 1 full week of straight hell. I had gone up to my boyfriend's college to visit him on Valentine's Day weekend on Friday night. We had been doing MDMA on a pretty regular basis, and this weekend was to be no different. But drugs could not be found at the college, so we took the 2-hour drive back to my hometown, borrowing my friend Bill's car to pick up some E and then go back. When we got to my friend's house, who was hooking us up with the E, I was told that there was meth around. I was scared. I had never done meth, and I knew that I was going to get the chance to that night. So we went to pick up the E, and the kid there broke me out a line of meth. Instantly it burned way worse than Coke ever has, but it only lasted a second. Soon, I felt like I was rolling. I had more energy, and the glow sticks and trance music were pulling me in. Needless to say, we didn't end up going back to the college like we thought. Then my boyfriend and I each ate 2 pills. Later, we found out the pills were straight meth bombs, and we hung out, entranced by the music and the light sticks. It was a nice, clean roll for a while, but then I started coming down. I didn't want to come down, so I bought another pill at 6 a.m. and continued rolling. Everyone left at around 12 p.m., and we really didn't have any place to go. My boyfriend was not supposed to be in town, and we were incredibly cracked out from lack of sleep. Oh, and my boyfriend had told me he cheated on me the night before, but I had been too funked up to get mad at him for it. Now it's Valentine's Day. I hadn't gotten any sleep, and I'm tripping out, seeing glow sticks everywhere. There was a whole wall of them, in fact. We ended up going over to his cousin's house and hanging out. My boyfriend was exhausted and went to sleep for a little bit. I took a shower, and the whole time I was having audio and visual hallucinations, like walls changing color and the shower telling me to get in, but that could have been dealt with. That night, my boyfriend and I, his cousin Lisa, and her friend Nicole wanted to roll, so we made the trip back, bought some more E, some juice, and some glow sticks. We popped the pills around 7 p.m. Mind you, I still hadn't gotten any sleep. Once the roll started kicking in, around 8 p.m., I began to notice heavier visuals, and as the night went on, they became more and more real until I couldn't distinguish what I was seeing from what was actually there. I was seeing all these people that weren't really there, only in the dark, and trying to climb over people to get to the couch when, in reality, there was no one sitting there. I would look over to my left, and on the arm of the couch, I would see revolting faces that scared me. Then we broke out the glow sticks. I was told later on that I was playing with them for like 3 hours straight. I woke up with cuts all over my hands, but the entire time I was seeing dinosaurs and skulls and having weird random hallucinations. I would look at the walls and the TV and see entire shows and cartoons playing in front of my eyes. Glass took on a whole new dimension, but I also began to notice that I had been ignored all night by my boyfriend. We began to get that sickness, coming down, So we called up the kid and he had 3 pills left. It was a long drive to his house, but I think we all went. Maybe not. I don't really remember. But it's down this country, Bassakwards Road, and the whole way there I remember looking out the window and seeing all sorts of cartoon characters in the window. So around 3:30 a.m., Lisa and Nicole popped another pill, and my boyfriend and I split one. I got the bigger half because it seemed to make sense at the time. We went back downstairs to play with the glow sticks, and I was watching Lisa and Nicole give light shows. I began to see all sorts of shapes in the middle, like hearts and the sort. This lasted until about 6 a.m. Sunday morning, when I began to notice intense audio hallucinations. Somebody seemed to be watching my every move and commenting on it negatively. By this time, my body was exhausted, and I just wanted to sleep. I kept hearing my boyfriend's cousin. I got my boyfriend, and we went to bed. Before we went to bed, though, we got into a huge fight. I accused him of ignoring me all night, which he had. But later, he told me there was something about the look in my eye that he didn't trust. I've seen it myself doing meth again later on. I cried myself to sleep because it hurt so bad coming down, and the feelings of emptiness were intense. I slept approximately 3 hours before getting up again, but I still felt like I was rolling. At the time, I didn't realize I was tripping out because of the meth. I was seeing glow sticks and shadow people everywhere. But even worse, I began to realize that everyone was talking about me and that no one liked me. I thought that I could hear people's thoughts, and they were all negative. Shiz began to hit the fan that day. My boyfriend's mom found out that we were back in town, and she got very pissed off about it. That's when things really soured. My boyfriend's mom wanted to take me home, but I cried and cried and cried rather irrationally because I couldn't let my mom see me like that. So I ended up pulling a few strings and lying to everyone, and was able to stay with my boyfriend that night. We went back to his house and I still couldn't sleep. I was having a very intense bad trip. Later, thinking about it, what manifested in front of my eyes was everything that I thought was evil and wrong. I was seeing everything from a movie of the attack on the WTC playing over and over again, to a meeting of the Ku Klux Klan going on in somebody's backyard. My boyfriend had bought me roses for Valentine's Day, and I've always thought flowers are a bad gift, but that night I watched them wither and die over and over again. I even looked in the mirror and didn't see my reflection. I begged my boyfriend to stay awake with me. I was so scared, but he really didn't understand what was going on, and I didn't want to tell him I had done meth. So we got up the next day, and my boyfriend was supposed to drive back to his college, give Bill's car back, and go back to school. But we ended up hanging out for a while before he was going to drop me off. We went over to the kid's house who had meth, and I ended up doing a line in exchange for some hydrocodone that I had stolen from my boyfriend's mom. I told my mom I was hanging out with his brother Mike. When I went to call my mom, shiz went bad. She had found out I wasn't with Mike, and they had people out looking for us. So, being irrational and funked out of our minds, the first thing we decided to do was go back to my boyfriend's college, escaping any problem there. But shiz was bad. We didn't have any money for gas, and this was before gas was $2.25 a gallon, thank God. So I borrowed a couple of dollars from a friend. It was all I could get, and we went on our way. We got there in one piece, but once I was there, I began hallucinating really badly. I thought my friend Bill was trying to kill me. People were following me, but when I went to them, they would always back away. I thought the cops were after me. My boyfriend's mom and him were conspiring against me, and I thought a few of my friends were commenting on my every move. I could not tell the difference between my meth-induced psychosis and reality. Bugs were crawling all over my skin. I tried to tell my boyfriend that people were after me and trying to kill me, but now I realize how stupid that must have sounded. I didn't sleep for another 2 nights at all. I also could not bear the thought of food, so I lost like 10 pounds in 5 days, drinking mostly blue Powerade. When I finally came down completely, I got really sick because my immune system was destroyed at that point. My boyfriend and I had basically said our goodbyes forever. Although we dated a little bit longer, I see that as the official end of our relationship. Meth is an incredibly powerful drug, and a lot of people don't know what they are getting themselves into. I certainly didn't. If you made it this far, you already know these stories are real, and they don't always have happy endings. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. It really helps the channel. And if you want more stories like this, check out the videos on your screen now. I'll see you in the next one.